It's been 4 years since the PlayStation 5 launched, 4 years since the promises of resolutions up to 8K and high frame rates that will tear your eyeballs out. Some would say those expectations were not met. Now we have the PlayStation 5 Pro, a mid-cycle iteration developed to bridge the gap between the current and next generation of console hardware. Some would say, is this really necessary? Me, I'm that someone. The PlayStation 4 Pro was released just 3 years into the PlayStation 4's life cycle, and we are just now learning that the PlayStation 4 Pro accounted for 20% of overall PlayStation 4 sales, which honestly is not too bad. But the difference between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 is that the PlayStation 4 launched in a time just before 4K displays were widely used. The technology aged very rapidly. The PlayStation 5 Pro doesn't need to adjust itself to modern displays. The PlayStation 5 already did a good enough job of future-proofing itself. The PlayStation 5 Pro is sort of adjusting itself to the current graphics technology, even if just marginally so. We're just not really seeing large leaps in graphics between generations anymore. One of the best parts about playing games on a console is that things just work on there. You don't have to futz around with settings. But recently, these things have had a bunch of performance modes on there. This per game setting seems to go against the simplicity of owning a console. One of the PlayStation 5 Pro's main selling points was its ability to simplify this a bit. You don't need to compromise between visual fidelity and performance. You can have the best of both worlds.
Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro.
Although, some developers didn't get that memo because some games give you even more options to mess around with. The PS5 Pro does improve your gameplay. It's a technical leap ahead. Or maybe I should say, a technical tiptoe. Things are definitely different here, but, well, we'll see if you can even spot the difference. This video is sponsored by Factor. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or persons is coincidental. Hey, what's for dinner tonight? Oh, what about that chicken Florentine we had that one time? Ooh, that was good. Oh yeah, I like that. Let's do that. You're gonna make it though, right? Yeah, of course. No more ordering out, right? Yeah, of course not. I'm over that phase. We're on a budget now because the wedding's coming up. I love you. Food app. Shh. Hey man, are you using Food app again? No, I haven't used that app in weeks.
Double points for ordering again today.
What else did you order today? Lunch from my favorite Greek place. Ask me the name of it. Go on, ask me. Ask me the name of it. It's called Feta Than the Rest. I'll get started on the Factor meal. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. You could skip the grocery store, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-curated, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. And they've got smoothies, they've got juices, and they've got wellness shots. You could pop it in the microwave for about 2 minutes if you're in a real hurry. I like to stick it in the oven for about 7 minutes. Sometimes, I legitimately forget to eat, so having Factor ready to go in the fridge is perfect for me. And you can try it for yourself over at factor75.com and use code 50. Ya hungry? They changed it at the start. For a whole 50% off of your first Factor box and free shipping. See, how easy was that? Oh man, was that good. Not only am I full, but so is my wallet.
$20 automatically charged for a bad joke. That sucked. Removing free baklava coupon.
I was gonna use that. So I actually don't hate the look of it. It's a bit sleeker than the old one. It's a very similar design to the Slim model, but I never got my hands on that. This design makes the fins look a little nicer, and it's slimmer and smaller than my original. And the lights look cool, and I don't hate the stripes in the middle. I do like it more than the original design, although I would love some black plates. They've got to hurry up and make those, because white does not go well in this setup. Supposedly, they made the plates annoyingly proprietary. The slim plates could supposedly fit on the Pro. They're the same size, It's just that there's some clips that are in different spots on the Slim versus the Pro. They must have had their reasons for doing that, because that would just be a massive waste of money to produce two completely different SKUs. Everybody's hating on the PlayStation 5 Pro because it costs $700. And they did a very bad job of showing the visual differences between gameplay on the old PlayStation 5 and the new PlayStation 5 Pro. And it doesn't come with a vertical stand or a disc drive. The vertical stand is an additional $30 charge, and the disc drive is another $80. The disc drive was also sold out everywhere when I tried to buy this thing. Luckily, my brother just found one at Walmart, so thank you. It doesn't technically need the $30 vertical stand. You could just stand it up on its own. It'll just be a little wobbly. If you have a cat, you should probably get the vertical stand. There's also some vents that are on the bottom. I'm not sure how important these are for airflow, but using the stand also kind of blocks these vents. Also, if you attach the disk drive, it does add a little bit more support. So the stand isn't 100% necessary.
You could also just lay it on its side. For that, they graciously included these stupid, tiny clips. This'll hold it upright when it's laying down horizontally.
There are actually different size clips that they give you when you get the disk drive. So you need different clips just to put it horizontally. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Because the design is so flawed that it can't even hold itself up unassisted. What an amazing product so far, and we haven't even turned it on yet.
Full disclosure, I had absolutely no intention of buying this thing or even making a video about it. Of all of the modern consoles that I have, I probably play my PlayStation 5 the least. I have pretty much fully converted into a Steam boy. I think that the PlayStation ecosystem just doesn't really work well with my play style anymore.
I like having the option to play my games on a multitude of different hardware, and PlayStation just locks me to just one, and it's not even a portable one.
I got this kind of last minute because I'm working on a sponsored video with Asus about one of their Wi-Fi 7 routers, and they asked me to talk about PlayStation 5 Pro compatibility. The original PlayStation 5 only had Wi-Fi 6. This new PlayStation 5 Pro has Wi-Fi 7. I probably should have set up that new router when I was transferring stuff over from my old PlayStation to the new one, because that process went very slow on Wi-Fi 6. That video will be up probably late December, so subscribe to see that. Thank you very much. The new Wi-Fi 7 on this PlayStation 5 Pro probably won't help PlayStation Portal capability that much, because the PlayStation Portal only has Wi-Fi 5. That's right. The only device that requires internet to function at all has the worst Wi-Fi of them all. Imagine that. When you turn the device on, it asks you if you'd like to transfer stuff from a previous PlayStation 5. That's very convenient because I happen to have my old one right here next to it. Here's a little trick for you. I was too lazy to plug my old PlayStation 5 into a separate display, so what I did was I just turned it on and pressed the X button one time to log myself in. And that's all you need to do to get it detected by your new console. Unless you have like a password on it or something. Like I said before, transferring everything took forever. It was faster to just re-download stuff. Most of my PlayStation 5 library is physical, so I figured I would need the disk drive for this video. But it turns out not every PlayStation 5 game is Pro enhanced. There's only like around 55-ish games that are enhanced on the PlayStation 5 Pro. But that's actually an improvement over the PlayStation 4 Pro, which only had around 40 games at launch. Anyway, by pure coincidence, not really any of my physical games that I own are Pro enhanced. The games that I've actually played that are Pro enhanced are ones that I own digitally. Spider-Man 2 and Resident Evil Village. I think those two specifically were actually sent to me by Sony. So thank you, Sony. I appreciate it. There's also Fortnite, Apex Legends, and The First Descendant. Those are games that I've played that are also enhanced on this thing, but those are free games. Call of Duty Warzone will also presumably be PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced when that gets the Black Ops 6 update very soon. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced, but I own that on Steam, and I'm not buying that game a second time. There is an option that enhances some PS4 games on the PS5 Pro,
but it's weirdly only games that don't have PS4 Pro enhancements. Another reason why I'm not too jazzed about this upgrade is that I don't even have that nice of a TV in my living room where this PlayStation is going to live. The TV in my living room is a 2019 Black Friday special. Here's a video of when I got it. It is 4K, but it only goes up to 60 hertz, which I'd imagine is pretty similar to what's in most people's homes. I don't think most people have 120 hertz displays in their living rooms. My couch is also not that close to my TV, which again, I think is pretty normal for the average living room setup. There are technically some graphical and performance improvements for some games that should technically be noticeable in this type of environment. Some games will have a steadier 60 frames per second and a crisper 4K than they would on a regular PlayStation 5. But if you have this type of setup, you probably wouldn't even notice. I'm just not going to get the most out of this upgrade here. At my desk, I have this nice 4K 240 hertz OLED display. This is where I will probably see most of the differences in a game like Spider-Man 2. Plus, my eyeballs are right up against it. And it does look nice. Spider-Man 2 is a beautiful game already. The game has 2 modes on the standard PlayStation 5, Fidelity and Performance. It's the perfect example of what Mark Cerny was talking about at that keynote. On the PlayStation 5 Pro, it still has 2 modes, which goes against what Mark Cerny said in the keynote. These new modes are now Fidelity Pro and Performance Pro. On the PS5 Pro, Fidelity Pro drops the frame rate down a little bit. It honestly looks kind of cinematic, but it does look jittery when there's a lot of action or when you're whipping the camera around. Honestly, if they added a little bit of rolling shutter, it might look more cinematic. Performance Pro looks great, but it's not until I went back to the original PlayStation 5 where I could really tell the difference. You can kind of see it in the lines on Spider-Man's back. They appear to be a higher resolution on the Pro on the left. It's really hard to show this in a YouTube video. The video quality is degraded by the capture card and then degraded again by YouTube's terrible compression. So you'll just have to take my word for it that I saw a noticeable difference when playing it. But only really when I was looking for it. It looks just fine on a regular PlayStation 5, and if I was on my couch, I would never be able to tell the difference at all. Your rich friend who wants to get this because it's new will never know the difference. He'll just say he can tell the difference, but he's lying because he doesn't want you to make fun of him for spending $700 or $800. Fidelity mode just shows jagged edges on the old PlayStation 5 and smoother lines on the Pro. They look like they're probably super sampled. That's the new pisser at work. Overall, performance mode is the way to go on either console. You might lose some resolution on the original PlayStation 5, but the steady high-ish frame rate is preferred. On the PS5 Pro, performance is still the way to go, but you don't lose any resolution at all. At least it doesn't seem like it. It's sort of the best of both worlds. Harry Osborn's sweater looks crazy. Fidelity Pro is supposed to increase some detail. If this even does anything, it's extremely marginal. But I definitely noticed it increased the crowd size on the streets of Manhattan, especially compared to the original PS5's performance mode. So basically, the PS5 Pro is attempting to smooth out some rough edges that the original PlayStation 5 had. And to an extent, it's successful at that, but I don't think this is enough to want to upgrade over at all. Even if somebody's a new user, they don't have a PlayStation 5 at all. I don't even think it's worth it to spend the extra $300 on this just for those for the smooth edges on Spider-Man 2. These extra frames look cool, but it's not $300 cool. That's like, what, 2 Ubers to the airport? Resident Evil Village is another game that I have that has a boost in performance on the Pro. This game goes from having a 60 frame per second cap on the original to a whopping 120 frames per second on the Pro. Both consoles get 4K, so this is utilizing the entire resolution and frame rate cap that the PlayStation 5 has. And it does look great. Unfortunately, probably won't even notice a difference because YouTube only allows for 60 frames per second video. You can visually tell the difference between 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second when you're playing, but it's hard to tell in a cinematic game like Resident Evil Village. High frame rates are super useful for fast competitive games, but for a single player cinematic experience, it feels a little overkill. So while playing some of these games, I discovered that not all of these 50 or so PS5 enhanced games have any indication of what their enhancements are at all. Fortnite is on the list of enhanced games. It has 120 frames per second mode, but it has that on the base PS5 too? It looks similar on the original versus the Pro, but the frame rate's dipping a little more on the original. But just like a little bit. Apex Legends doesn't seem to have any video settings whatsoever, or so I thought. It's the PS4 Apex. God damn it, dude. Turns out I had the PS4 version on my brand new, just out of the box PS5. Make that make sense. Look at this, PS5, PS4. Why? Apex is similar to Fortnite though, in that they don't explain at all what the enhancement is.
It just seems like the frame rate dips ever so slightly more on the original PlayStation 5 than on the new Pro.
These are 120 frames per second games, so I'm not running them through my capture card because that would limit the frame rate. You probably wouldn't be able to see the difference on YouTube anyway. You'll just have to take my word for it. The first Descendant actually does have an explanation as to what's different on the PS5 Pro. It's ray tracing. On the PS5 Pro, I switched it to performance mode and turned on all the settings. It does run at 120 frames per second, but it drops down very frequently and rapidly to as low as 60 frames per second when anything happens on screen. It's not a steady frame rate, although it does look pretty. Plugging it into the capture card will lock it at 60 because my capture card only allows for 60 frames per second. I actually kind of like this better. It feels kind of nice to not have the frame rate go from high to low so rapidly. The ray tracing, it looks nice, I guess. Honestly, it's not the end of the world without it. PS5 original can do ray tracing, but not in the performance mode. More importantly, while using performance mode on original PlayStation 5, the edges of the character models are a lot more jagged. You can see it mostly in the hair and far away stuff. Otherwise, frame rate is actually way smoother on the original PlayStation 5.
At 120 frames per second in performance mode.
Even when there's a lot of stuff happening on screen. It's probably a combination of the resolution being lower and the lack of ray tracing. Maybe leave ray tracing off for now on the PS5 Pro. At least for this game. I should mention that everything that I'm doing here is in HDR, which is a huge pain in the ass to capture footage and film in. It is also sometimes a pain in the ass to get to work right with certain devices, like certain displays.
HDR's off! Why? Always on! Why did you turn off? What do you mean my TV doesn't support it? It's been supporting it this whole time! What are you talking about? You've been supporting it! It says in here that it's HDR! It says on here!
But it does look nice on HDR compatible displays. This video will probably look pretty nice on your phone, or if you have a MacBook, watch it on that. Oh. The PS5's HDMI port only allows for 32 gigabits per second of bandwidth, which is not really enough for 4K 120 frames per second gameplay, and is even less when you add HDR into the mix. It's just really weird that they didn't increase the bandwidth when they made the Pro version. It seemed like a perfect opportunity for them to do that, but it looks fine. I'm just splitting hairs here. I think I'm just salty that I have to shoot and edit another HDR video. Another thing that I'm bitter about is PlayStation Plus. So I told you that I transferred all of my stuff from my old PlayStation 5 to the new one, which you would have to do if you wanted to upgrade. This includes the save files. Well, for these tests, I intended on taking my save file and moving it back and forth between the old console and the new console. Did you know that you can't do that without PlayStation Plus?
What? I forgot about that. I forgot I gotta pay for that. Oh, god damn it.
You may be thinking, that's fine. Just plug in a USB drive. That's how it worked on the PlayStation 4. Nope.
Copy the USB drive, but it's only PlayStation 4, dude. It's only PS4 games. What? There's no reason for that.
There are no transferring of save files at all on a PlayStation 5 unless you pay for it.
$10. Take my $10 just so I can, literally just so I can get the game from here to here. It's right here.
The router's right there. If you gotta go to the router, you just go bing, bing. I got a little guy for you. I got a little guy I could put in here. It'd be so easy to just boom, 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 boom.
You can move all of your stuff from one PlayStation 5 to another if they're both on the same network. But it's like an all or nothing kind of thing. It's a big process when it could just be as simple as using one of these. This is just one of the very dumb things. There's a lot of little problems that I have with Sony's stuff, and they're all mounding. When Sony launched the PlayStation 5, the box had an 8K logo on it. Remember that? Well, it's not on the box for the Pro or the Slim. They stopped the messaging. 8K is a selling point for some people because 8 is a bigger number than 4. Not like 8K is gonna do anything for anybody who's buying one of these. They removed 8K from the box because after all of these years, here is the comprehensive list of all of the games that run at 8K on the original PlayStation 5. There's actually a couple more now that run at 8K on the PlayStation 5 Pro or have an 8K mode. Gran Turismo, F1, and No Man's Sky. 8K TVs aren't really selling that well. Manufacturers are actually making less 8K TVs now than they did just a few years ago, probably because they're not selling that well. And technology isn't really utilizing 8K that much. There's not really a lot of support for it. So I understand why there's not a lot of 8K games. Plus, don't forget about that 32 gigabit per second bandwidth that the HDMI port has. So it doesn't really have that much power to do 8K anyway. I think playing handhelds has kind of jaded me a little bit. I was playing Spider-Man 2 on here, looking at all the pretty ray trace lighting and thinking to myself, so what? Graphics mean so much less to me now than they ever have. I still get blown away by impressive graphics, don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna tell you to spend $700 or $800 for slightly smoother lines in Spider-Man's suit. I'd rather play this game at 720p on a $400 handheld. Maybe in the coming year, developers will better utilize the technology here, but right now, you have to really love pixel peeping if you're gonna get this. Otherwise, the regular PlayStation 5 is still worth going for. What do you guys think about the PlayStation 5 Pro? Did I miss something? Is there something else I should have checked out? I heard a lot of great things about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? The rerun. Final Fantasy VII rerun. Moore's Law is just starting to slow down. We have great technology here and just, you know, it's becoming harder and harder to utilize all of that great technology. And buckle up, because these things are only gonna start to get more expensive. Speaking of money, you like this shirt that I'm wearing? Check it out. Launching today over at wolfdenapparel.com. It's a shirt, it's got our podcast logo on it. I thought it looked nice. Look at it. We also got nice new cups over there. And everything else is on a Black Friday sale because we're starting that early because I wanted to launch these and I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to get the sale, even if you're a little early. That's wolfdenapparel.com. Thank you very much. We're also over on twitch.tv/wolfden where we do the podcast, but also I mess around with stuff like this for the videos, so people actually helped me in the chat while I was messing around with this. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check them out in the description. But of course, the most important thing that you can do is subscribe to the channel, man. God, I've been on the precipice of a million. Share this video with friends. Somebody who wants one of these. Thank you. Bye.